Now, the distiller, there's a million different ways you can go here. It is not illegal for you to have a distiller. However, you know, if you get caught making stuff and you're selling it to people, that's on your own. That's your problem, okay? You're breaking the law. So,
There's got to be a better way than this. Very nice.
So, but you can buy it, no problem. There's a lot of different companies out there that make stills, right? So you can go on. Heck, they even got them on Amazon. But you can go to eBay. There's all kinds of companies that make all kinds of different stills. And but basically, all you're doing is you're taking a pot. Now, you would preferably want this pot to be stainless steel or copper. Aluminum is not a very good idea because aluminum's been linked to a lot of different things like Alzheimer's and some different types of cancer. I try and stay away from it, and I wouldn't recommend it. But anyways, you have a pot. The pot has a covering, right? But the pot has a hole in that covering that will allow the gases to really be released. Now, as long as you're doing this smart and you're wanting to go about it slow, then this is a pretty darn safe process. But all you're doing is you're getting it up to about 170 degrees. All right, between 165 degrees and 170 degrees, you're going to be releasing what's called the heads. All right, the heads is very pungent. It's a lot like acetone. The heads, they'll have a little bit of a yellow tint to it, and it'll smell really foul. Not really foul. You can't smell it across the room, but you're like, oh, you can definitely tell you're not supposed to be drinking that stuff. And per gallon, a safe rule of thumb, per gallon of distilled of distillation, throw out the first 10 milliliters. So if you're doing 5 gallons, you throw out the first 50 milliliters. If you're doing 10 gallons, then you've got a big operation, buddy. And you probably already know what you're doing. But those are the heads. The heads are poisonous. They're bad for you. Don't drink them. All right. Once the heads are gone, you'll see you want to be able to watch your thermometer really well. And as you do this, you'll learn when things start to happen. But I believe it's around 172. No, that's a little bit high. Maybe it's 168 degrees. But anyway, so be it. The specific point when the heads are, you're throwing them out, and if it's still yellow and if it's still pungent, you keep throwing it out. Whenever it becomes crystal clear, then you've got the good stuff. All right. Now the good stuff will continue to come out all the way up until about 178 or 180 degrees Fahrenheit inside your still. Right? And here's why it's pretty darn safe, is because the water or the liquid is not even going to start to boil until it reaches 212 degrees. So as long as the alcohol has a lower boiling point than the water, and so as long as the alcohol can evaporate off at the 175 degrees or so that you're at, it's fine. It's not building up pressure. And that's where it goes through your copper tube, right? And gets cooled off in a bucket of ice. The copper tube, the copper tube goes down in the bucket of ice, right? And then it runs out, and going into the bucket of ice, the gases that go in there, and it's inside the copper tube, which is called your worm, right? That cools it down and it condenses back into a liquid form. And then that stuff that starts coming out, that is your moonshine, your whiskey, your white whiskey, your rum, your tequila, whatever it is. Okay? So those are the basics in a nutshell of what you need to know. Let's recap. Pretty much anything that's edible that doesn't have high citric acid, but it does have a large concentration of starch that will break down into sugars. You take it, let's say it's corn, you've got your cracked corn, you put it inside a big pot, you put a bunch of water in there with it, you cook it at about 195 degrees Fahrenheit for about 2 hours, then you just let it cool off. It cools down to about 95 or 100 degrees, something like that. Then you throw in your yeast. You let it sit for about 5 days. That yeast eats the sugars and then turns everything in the process. It turns itself into, I think, the alcohol. So now you've got this bucket of juices that have fermented, and you have an alcohol content that's probably somewhere around 5% alcohol. About 5% alcohol, so it's like a beer. Then you take that, you distill it, and then you have your drinkable liquor. At that point, then you can choose to just bottle it, and you would have you usually are going to call it a white whiskey, all right? And it's going to be like your moonshine type of product, and or you can put it in an open barrel. You could take it and drop wood chips into it, big ones, not little ones, because then you'll drink them. And that will give it the aged flavor, the woody, smoky flavor. But that's your how to make liquor, alcohol in a nutshell.